Okay, if you were to ask me what dogs eat, and everybody differs, and that was the study, I would say something like that. Everybody's different. I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, you can't. Everybody's different on what they think the dogs should eat, but I don't like giving exact percentages, but I am going to in the next slide. Dogs eat an awful lot of meat muscle, 60, 70% muscle. That can be any meat of any animal, essentially, any herbivorous animal. So, you got your beef, your duck, your pork, lamb, which most of it is sheep, let's face it, fish, anything, whole fish. The only meat I would take a little bit of care of would be some fish. I would feed fish from frozen, because fish can have some worms in it that dogs haven't evolved up beside it, so they're quite susceptible to them. All the rest of the meats and stuff, there's no worms in the meat chain, so don't be worried about worms from beef. Various types of organ meat, eggs, hearts, I could talk all day, but that's how much meat and muscle they eat. Then they eat excreting organ. That E organ is excreting organ. That's like pancreas and liver and kidney. Don't get too bogged down in this, guys. I'm just giving you a rough idea of the proportions. Then there's raw meaty bone, maybe 10%, 15% bone. Who knows? They get more some day and less the other days. You're not exactly measuring it up every day. And then some plant material, if you like, which usually involve greeny type stuff. And some people even use some carbs, like sweet potatoes or even a bit of porridge. Some people, somebody asked me, what's the cheapest raw dog food you can make? And I can make raw dog food very, very cheap for people. And that's an important question, sadly, for quite a large portion of the market, because people don't have a lot of cash. And now they're realizing that this eats the most expensive diet known to man, meat. Okay, so that can be difficult if you've got 3 German Shepherds looking to you for food. But if you are feeding a dry pet food that contains 60% corn or wheat, then I would argue that a raw dog food made where 60% of it, 70% of it is really good quality mix of meat, muscle, excreting organ, raw bone, and you put in 30% porridge, I wouldn't apologize for that. That's fine. That's okay. That's a hell of a lot better than the dry food you're eating, 40% porridge. I mean, that's an extremely high amount of filler that the dog doesn't need. And if you can find cheaper meat filler, that's great. Hearts and tripe and stuff are used to pad out raw dog food because they're so cheap. I'm just making the point that some people use carbs. It's a bit of a hangover from the dry food thing. But I do use a bit of veg. I don't use fruit, certainly not in the pre-mades, really. I use a tiny bit of blackberries or blueberries, but that's more medicinal. I don't throw in lumps of melon and stuff or banana in the food. So if you want to get a bit more proportionally wise, I would say the ratios are something like 5-1-1-1, which is 5 parts meat to 1 part organ. You can see the little arrows there with tripe and heart pointing off to the left-hand side. They are organ meats, but they're just plain organ meats. They don't have any sexy kind of endocrine, exocrine functions. They're just meat. So, and they're cheap. So we use them to pad up raw dog foods. And that's the filler in raw dog food, excellent filler. So various different types of bones. Do I recommend veg? I do a little bit of veg, any types of veg. Studies show that dogs are not only have bumped into plant matter in the past, they wouldn't have evolved those genes otherwise, and a number of other things, hepatic glucanase and a few other things. But they can eat it, they can digest it when it's ground up a little bit, and dark greens have just got so much good stuff in them. It'd be a crime not to give it to them, in my opinion. Blueberries or blackberries, a little pinch of them now and again, throw them out into the grass, give them something to do. Fantastic food for an animal. And then extra bits, so yes, I've got garlic there. Guys, I don't want to get into the garlic conversation at the moment, but garlic is so safe, it's ridiculous. There isn't a study you're going to show me where garlic hurt a dog. There's one overdose study by Lee a few years ago where they force-fed, get this, 120, the equivalent of 25 cloves of raw garlic a day, okay, to a beagle for 7 days. 25 raw cloves, that's 125 grams of raw garlic a day. That would lay out an elephant, let alone a poor beagle for 7 days, and after 7 days his blood was very wrong. You betcha. Garlic is from the onion family. It does contain some of the sulfur compounds. Thiosulfate's the most famous one, but it's nothing like onion. Don't feed onion to dogs, but small amounts of garlic, incredible. Fantastic anti-helminthic. Worms hate it. They won't locate in an animal that's taken garlic. Plenty of studies there on that. I love a little bit of garlic now and again. A bit of cod liver oil tablets if you like, can't beat a bit of omega-3. Don't forget your herbs. Start looking at what herbs are cool in dogs. Why not? I mean, they're cheap. You grow them in a little pot out the back garden. You grow your pet a little herb garden, put down a little bit of parsley. If your dog doesn't have access to fresh grass, which they need, then you need to grow in a pot and the dog can just nibble at it when he needs it for whatever reason. It's usually kind of a digestive. So there's lots of other herbs. I recommend a pet herb garden, 3 or 4 herbs. German chamomile, so easy to grow. Burdock, my God, it's so good for kidneys, and they'll eat it when they're sick. And if I see a dog eating that stuff, I'll go, he's not too happy. But they know about self-medicinal because their nose, they know how to feed themselves.